Ready, get set, go. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Ben Eilers. I'm the host of today's webinar, and I am truly glad to be here today. And more importantly, I'm truly glad that you're here, whether you're watching on video later or here with us live, because our intention for today is that by being here, you're able to transform your business. This is a pioneering education, a first of its kind webinar presented by Showcase IDX and Agent Hub 360. And as you can see and you know, the title is How to Create a Real Estate Tech Stack to Scale. Why is this important? Because if you're not growing, it's highly possible it's because of your technology stack. And one of the things that is so true is that agents are dealing with more and more technology and yet not experiencing the growth out of their business. And the result is that massive amounts of not just wasted money, but even more importantly, huge amounts of wasted time, your time spent trying to put the pieces together to figure out how to grow your business. And that's exactly why we designed this webinar and what we're going to address today. The bottom line is this is about having your business run like a complete business and be able to grow like a complete business. That's what we're talking about in terms of scaling. There it is. That's what we're covering today. The whole picture, what it should look like, and really delving into the pieces you need in your tech stack. What are the right ones? And more importantly, number two is how do they need to be put together so that they leverage and compound and create results. But we're going to spend an equal amount of time in the webinar on the missing links, the places where it breaks down, and it breaks down for almost everyone. So before we get in, back up just a sec, Greg, before we get into the content, we're going to spend 45 minutes delving into some really rich material, and we're going to save all the questions for the end. So in terms of housekeeping, number one is use the chat. Use the chat as questions come up. I promise you there are no dumb questions here because every agent is struggling with their tech stack and making it produce. And so you're probably asking questions for a lot of people. We're going to save a Q&A for after we're done the content. Number two is we're recording this. So we are going to send you a link to the recording. We are going to reference, for time's sake, some pretty dense information that we may not go into in real detail. So you can always review it later, so don't worry about that. And we're going to send you a copy of this slide deck. So let's get into introducing who the experts are today. First of all, I'm Ben Eilers. As I said, I'm the host, and I've spent my career in real estate as an agent, as a team owner, and as a consultant, consulting with over 1,000 agents, specifically on how to build a breakthrough business for them and get their freedom back. And that's been largely as my role as Director of Business Development for Agent Hub 360. I'm also one of the founders of the company, and we're the only business growth system for solo agents in the industry. And a big piece of how we help agents grow their business is because of how we work and manage their tech stacks. We really know this content really well. And the two guys you really want to listen to today are Greg Head and Kurt Euler. These guys are brilliant. They are industry leaders in technology, how to put systems together in real estate so that a business really produces powerfully. Greg, I've known for years. We are business partners. And besides being a terrific guy, he is CEO and co-founder of Agent Hub 360. And before getting focused on solving the biggest problems in real estate, Greg was for 10 years on the management team of a Fortune 500 company as director of IT. So he understands technology, people, process, systems working together. And he has an innate ability to see through a mass of details and make it simple, which is why he's an industry thought leader in agent production and business growth. He's also a best-selling author on real estate cycles and other elements of real estate, but he could really write an encyclopedia on tech stacks. So he's also a Canadian, which means he's a really nice guy, and he really loves his Calgary Flames. So don't give him a hard time about that. There you go, Greg. And then there's Kurt Euler, which, my God, we could talk the rest of these 45 minutes about Kurt. One of the more fascinating people you're going to meet. And I don't know how he squeezed so much life into so few years, but he's a globally recognized speaker, author, and operational leader. And he's been an inventor of disruptive technologies in 5 industries and has 16 patents. And some of the technologies he's helped develop and patent are things that you've used in Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, Facebook, Instagram. Pretty amazing. And he's been asked to direct and lead thousands of business leaders, from startups to the President of the United States, literally the President of the United States. And one of the things he really understands is scaling. So he serves currently as the Chief Marketing Officer for Showcase IDX, which is the best consumer search in real estate. And what they've been able to do is give agents tools to really fight a winning battle with some of the big guys like Zillow and Redfin and Trulia. And they're driving more visits and keeping visitors longer on your website. It's very powerful. The last thing I just want to say quickly about Kurt, which is hard to believe, is that here's a quick little note in his bio. Even when he's been running fast-paced teams in some of the large companies, Kurt has moonlighted for years training stuntmen and women to work in movies and commercials. He's known for his fight choreography and skills handling alligators. That's the kind of crew you got talking to you today. So it's fascinating what these guys know. And let's get into the content, shall we? Greg, hit the next slide. So what are you dealing with? You're dealing with this, right? We call this the chaos slide, or the life of an agent today. You all know this. Every agent, we get a lot of nods when they see this. You're doing too much, you're playing too many roles, and it's really just too much to handle, and it's not sustainable. That is the industry and the environment you're working in today. And Greg, number 2 is, I'm sorry, keep going, is that you're dealing with more and more pieces in that left-hand circle, all these pieces of technology to try to deal with the various things that you're working with in your business. And it's just adding more and more complexity to you. And you're running in circles as opposed to running a business. That's what we're here to address today. And then go to the next one, Greg, and I'm going to turn it over to you and Kurt right here. But if there was one sentence to summarize all of this, it would be this: your power to grow comes from connecting the scattered pieces of your business. That's what this seminar is about. Your power to grow comes from connecting those scattered pieces. So we're going to talk about the pieces, why they're scattered, how do you connect them, and how do you grow. And that's a perfect place for you to jump in, Greg.
Well, thanks, Ben. Thanks for the introduction, and it was really pleasant until you called me a Flames fan. But
I know, but I enjoyed it.
I see some folks from Minnesota here. So one of my good friends actually is with the Minnesota Wild. So love to catch up on hockey another time. But yes, most importantly, thanks for coming here. And we're going to get through a lot of content. But as Ben said, this statement is really powerful, right? The key, or the power to growing your business and scaling, is connecting all those scattered pieces. And yes, there is a lot of scattered pieces, right? And the reason why is we are living in this. We're living in a tech tsunami, right? And it's wave after wave, and every day there's new tech coming out. And just to put some numbers and make this real for everybody, it's funny, when we were planning this webinar, Kurt and I at the exact same time pulled this diagram out. And this is done by chiefmarket.com. They update this every year, okay? And what this is all the different marketing technology that's out there, okay? And today what we're really focusing on when we talk about the tech stack is we're narrowing in on marketing tech stack. So in 2014, okay, there was 947 services or technologies in this diagram. 2019, the exponential growth to 7,000. Well, this was updated in August of 2020, and we're in March 2022. So I'm going to venture to say that we're probably around 15 to 20,000 now on this diagram. That's shocking. This is just marketing technologies, right? So what we're here to do today is get through the mess and all the pieces that are laying on the beach and break it down and simplify it for you, so you have an understanding of what it takes to have a real estate tech stack. Okay, so let's move to the next one here. So let's jump to the marketing tech stack pieces. Okay, there are 6 pieces to really consider when you're building your marketing tech stack. The first one is the CRM. It is the foundational piece. Okay, and it's the piece that's going to contain all of your contacts, whether those are new leads or Sphere or past clients. It's all got to converge in your CRM. Number 2 is IDX websites. Okay, and we got the master of that here in the house today with Kurt, right? This is where you want your clients searching and learning about you, right? It is so competitive. We all know everyone starts their search online. It's so easy. And so you want them in your world, not on Zillow, not on realtor.com, or not on some other agent's site. So key piece to the stack. Next piece is lead generation, right? Where are you generating leads, right? How are you generating leads, right? We'll talk more about that soon. Homeowner reports. This is often overlooked, right? But what's keeping your potential sellers or your past clients up to date on what the market's doing around their home? They don't care about the market. They care about my home and what's going on next door or in my neighborhood. So that's an important piece. Next one is the listing marketing, right? So when you get a listing, right, what platform can you quickly generate your print materials, your digital materials for more lead capture, property website around that? We'll talk about what tools are available there. And then lastly, mass emails, right? Yeah, emails aren't going to be the key to your growth, but it's still an important piece. You still need to touch your database, at least on a monthly basis, whether it's a newsletter or when you get a hot new listing, or maybe you're doing some sort of draw or giveaway. Still an important piece to your tech stack. So those are the pieces. Now let's take a quick look at who does what. And again, we probably have 15,000 pieces of technology coming at us. So what we've done is we've taken some of the more popular ones in the real estate space. So first off, on the left here, kind of shaded in blue, we like to call these the all-in-ones, right? KV Core, YLOPAL, Real Geek, Sync, Chime. I mean, I could go on and on, but these are some of the more common ones. We call them the all-in-ones because they do hit on all the pieces of the tech stack in one platform. Okay. Then when we look at what's shaded in green, we call those best of breed. And the reason we call them best of breed is because they're typically really focused on one piece of the tech stack. So if you look at Property Base or Top Producer, which is probably the original CRM in the industry, Lion Desk, they're a CRM. And of course, they'll send out mass emails as well. We move over to Showcase, IDX, iHomeFinder, IDX Brokers. Those are examples of IDX websites, right? And typically they're a plugin that allows people to search on your website for homes and all that good stuff. And then we've got the classic lead generation. So the Zillows, the Google AdWords, SEO, Realtor.com. Moving over, we got HomeBeat and HomeBox. Okay, that's our homeowner reports. Okay, these are really good tools that will send out a really compelling and engaging report every month around someone's home. Listings to leads, great platform for listing marketing. I don't know of too many others in this space that are this comprehensive. And then, of course, our classics when it comes to mass emails, MailChimp, Constant Contact. So that's a quick overview. And again, I'm going to go through these quick. You'll have the recording to go back to, but just want to get through a lot of content. So yeah, by all means, feel free to wait for the recording if you want to go back. So the first question when it comes to your tech stack, yeah, all-in-one versus best of breed, right? On the surface, the all-in-one seems like a no-brainer. It's simple. It's one platform, has all the tech pieces, but is that always really the best answer? Right? Well, here's how I like to think of it. I like to think of all-in-ones like the Swiss Army knife. versus having a tool belt around your waist with the right tools for the right job. So yes, the Swiss Army knife has a lot of tools. When you're in a pinch, they're great, but is it the right tool? Right? That's something we need to always consider when we're building a tech stack. And this doesn't matter if you're running a Fortune 100 company or you're a solo agent building this tech stack. This is the same process that everybody needs to go through, every business. So I want to talk about the examples of, and we're gonna bring Kurt in here in a second, because again, when you look at all-in-one versus best of breed, the reason they're best of breed is because these companies are focused on one piece of the stack. So here's a report on the screen on this table. In 2021, there was a report done that compared all the major IDX plugins out there and their home search capabilities from a consumer perspective. And what you'll see, and what Kurt will walk us through here, is Showcase had a 95.7 consumer retention rate and an SEO value of 93, well more than double of every product out there. So Kurt, I got two questions for you here. Number one, who cares? Why is it important if you're an agent? And number two is, well, why is Showcase so much higher?
Yeah, great questions. I mean, I think as far as who cares, anyone that not only wants to grow their business, but stay in business, actually. And I say that because it's that extreme, the difference in a lot of these results. And so, what do these numbers mean? Like the first two columns of numbers, they're basically the same number, just shown in opposite ways. So consumer retention is, the opposite of a consumer loss. And so the concept here with what the report showed with Showcase IDX is if you send 100 qualified leads, that's what they did. They sent something like 35,000 leads to agent websites. And what they did was, hey, for 100 qualified leads that are sent to that agent's website that uses Showcase IDX, almost 96% of those people actually use that website for their home search, meaning they don't go primarily to Zillow. Let's admit that's where most consumers in the US and Canada are going to. On the opposite side, let's go pick something down lower, like a diverse solutions, where only 19, maybe 20%, 20 out of 100 leads would actually use that website. Well, there's no other industry besides real estate where I have even seen this kind of loss from a lead perspective. I mean, imagine if you were an estate lawyer or a tax accountant, and for every 100 qualified leads you brought, you knew that a competitor that of the 100 leads, 80 of those would be getting called by a competitor because of the technology in your website. Well, that's what this shows from a real estate perspective. So from the data, it showed that, say, if you have diverse solutions or iHomeFinder running your website, you should plan on, no matter what type of lead generation, of every 100 qualified leads, that at least 80 of those are going to be going to Zillow and doing the home search. So the only thing I can guarantee you in real estate is that when your client goes to Zillow to do their home search, as opposed to staying in your website, every one of those times, your clients, potential clients, will be getting called by a competitive agent. And that should scare both experienced agents and new agents to death. If you're an experienced agent, hey, if you're doing 50 to 100 transactions a year, that's a big business already for an agent. Well, but number-wise, you should be driving more leads. Well, so that's going to affect your GCI in a much bigger number. But from a percentage-wise, if you're a newer agent, if you're taking the full step, if you're trying to figure out how all these things work, and you only have kind of maybe 20 potential buyers in the next year, and I mean, from a dollars perspective, that's the decision about whether or not you stay in business. If 16 of those are going to go to Zillow and get called by a competitive agent, now you're going to be in a situation where even your aunt might be having to decide, hey, do I want to work with Kurt as my agent or this much more experienced agent that called me from Zillow? Well, that's a big concern for people. So, and the other part of that number kind of show too is from an SEO perspective. In the end, the best quality and cheapest lead long-term ends up coming from SEO. And so it showed as well, I love when third-party research shows the same things that we kind of do here at Showcase, is that everyone else, whether the all-in-ones down to the individual best of breeds, it's next to impossible to outrank Zillow and other agents using anything else from Real Geeks down to Chime or IDX Broker. as opposed to using Showcase IDX. I mean, we have tons of case studies where people in their niche are outranking Zillow day in and day out. And so that matters, both for keeping clients, whether you generate them organically or you would like them coming from Google.
We like to call that the LTV, or lifetime value of a client, right? If you pay $100 for a Zillow lead and you don't get them over to your site and stay there, you're risking that lifetime value of a client. Excellent, Kurt. Yeah, so that's just one example when we look at all-in-one versus best of breed that we always have to consider, right? Is what is the cost of using the Swiss Army knife for certain applications? And when it comes to the IDX website, this is one I would encourage you to take a real consideration to. Awesome. Thanks, Kurt. So one of the things you may be wondering is, okay, what are the costs difference? So what I'm going to show you, this is a typical cost. This is by no means each of these, what you see on the screen, platforms actually cost this much. It's a range. So for example, the all-in-ones, you're typically going to spend around $1,500 a month. And one of the big variables there is it's going to depend on how much money you put towards ads with lead gen, but typically I would say around $1,500 there. Kurt, you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a starting place for sure.
Yeah. KV Core, okay, if you're with EXP, keep in mind that that's provided. EXP provides that. The rest of these I'm just going to blow through real quick. One note here on Showcase. Again, if you're EXP, EXP subsidizes Showcase. I think it's $29. Kurt, is that?
The price for agents ends up being $29, almost $30, because
right.
The rest
Okay.
of it is subsidized.
Perfect. So I'm just going to blow through these and just summarize them here for you. Typically you look at around $1,500 for all-in-ones, and best of breeds, if you add them all up, it's somewhere around $800. I look at that as, hey, that's more money I can put towards running my tech stack, or maybe more lead gen. Okay, let's talk about the missing link. Two links actually. And if you're taking notes, again, I would have the pen out here, because this is the biggest thing that erodes the ROI in any tech investment. So let's imagine for a sec you have your tech stack. Whether you have an all-in-one or you've put together the best of breeds, you have your tech stack. There's two critical pieces that have to be part of this equation. And go ahead, I'll give you 10 seconds if you want to throw some thoughts and some guesses of what they are. We should have did a prize for this. Go ahead and throw them in chat. Well, Sean's typing in something. Sean's taking a stab.
He's gutsy.
Okay, well, in the essence of time, we'll jump to the first one. So again, you have tech.
Follow up.
And now you need process. And then once you have process, you need people. Technology will not run itself. You need defined process, and you need people working that process. Now, here's the challenge. Okay. And again, this doesn't matter if you're a solo agent or you're running a Fortune 100 company. One of my last or prior projects I ran was about $350 million. And it was a public company, so we went to the board for approval, and they come back and said, can you do it for 150? So our executive team got together and we crunched numbers, and we come back and said, yep, we can do it for 150. 150 million, we can get it implemented. But it's going to cost the company $1 billion. And when we walked the board through the cost of not having the proper process, and the people migrated to using a new system and different processes, that was what the costs was going to be. What do you think the board's answer was when they understood that? It was go spend $350 and do it right. Right. So I share this story because it doesn't matter. Solo agent or Fortune 100 company, it's the same process. It's the same equation. And the challenge we live in is tech companies have massive marketing budgets. and technology is shiny. It's sexy. Do you think people and process is shiny? Heavens no. And most agents, if you're a good agent, that's the last thing you ever want to touch or care about, right? But it's easy to just go and subscribe and buy new piece of technology, right? But that's what so much money is being wasted in this industry just on tech, and this picture just sums it up. And this is what we always need to remember, no matter what role we're in, what we're doing is, yeah, you can do anything, especially a guy like Kurt, but not everything, right? And your role as an agent, we're going to touch on this here shortly. This is something that I would circle, I would print out, and I would put on my desk. Because as that picture Ben showed us at the beginning, it's just you're getting pulled in so many different directions. So let's take a look at the people side of the equation. And I'm going to run through the types of roles and what those roles should look like. The first one is, to run your tech stack, you need to have an ISA. Right? If you got leads coming in, even if you're past clients or people that have already engaged and you know they have a time frame to buy or sell, right? You cannot afford to be the one that's calling and hung up on and told to F off and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That's a mining operation. And you as the agent should not be the one digging through all the dirt to find a nugget, right? That's where ISAs come in. Let them sift through the dirt and then hand you a nugget for then you to polish and clean and bring it to market. In your world, a transaction, right? Same with customer service calls to past clients. Right? We all know we struggle with follow-up and keeping in contact with our past clients. And then same with follow-up. Okay, next role, admin. Right? Who's going to manage that CRM? Because it ain't the agent, it ain't you. We know how good a job that's done. It's not your core competency, or it shouldn't be. Things like creating all the buyer searches or homeowner reports, right? Or listing marketing materials. Right. And one of the challenges that we see so often is agents go, oh, I'm going to hire an assistant and they're going to be my ISA. They're going to be my admin. Well, guess what? Same thing applies. They can do anything, but they can't do everything. And then 6 months later they leave and then you start all over again. Website developers, Kurt Showcase can give you a list of really good ones there. Who's going to integrate your tech stack? You know, maybe you sign up for a new lead gen. Doesn't matter if you're all in one or best of breed coming into your CRM. The data structure. I'm going to talk about that real shortly. Leader. Who's going to recruit and manage and find these people and then rehire when they leave? Right? That needs to be considered. And then most importantly, you, the agent. And this is your role. 3 things. Prospect, present, and negotiate. I like to think of this where if you go to a rock concert, okay, and the band walks on stage and they start to perform. And if you dissect that and break that down, right, they only have 2 jobs. It's rehearse and perform. Right? Okay, I'll get to your question, Michael. I just caught it in the corner of my eye. ISA, real quickly, is someone who's on the phone making calls for you. So that rock band, they come up and that's all. The only things they do is rehearse and perform, and that's how you need to think as an agent: is prospect, present, and negotiate. The more you can do those 3 things, the more business is going to grow. The more you're going to be able to scale. Okay, processes. Oh, who's excited for this?
Every agent.
This is the most sexy, shiny thing at all. Joking. Okay, I'm gonna, in the essence of time, we're gonna go through 2 processes here, and this is around data structure and data management. You can go back to the recording if you want to take a look at some of these other things. So, yeah, this is the least shiny, but one of the most important things. Imagine this is your closet. And you come home and you got 10 minutes and you're going to a real fancy event and you want to find your best pair of shoes, your best suit or dress, and this is your closet. Yeah, I'm already stressed. I don't know about you guys. This is how you need to think about your data and your CRM, right? Because if your CRM looks like this, then how could you ever grow or scale a business? Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're going to do an event for past clients. Maybe you've got a theater rented or something really exciting or a wine tour. And now you want to do something really simple like who's my list? Well, when your database looks like this, all of a sudden the barrier to entry to do that event just got really, really complex because where do you find these people? And let's say you got 2 hours in the morning to get this list out. Right? So these are examples of why data matters. Now imagine your closet looked like this and your CRM looked like this. Right? That's how business can grow and scale, is around organized data. But like we talked about, if you're the one as the agent left to organize your closet, it's going to look like the one on the left. And here's the thing. What your job should be as the agent is to make it look like that on the left. Throw stuff in because you're doing deals, you're prospecting, you're presenting, and you're negotiating. Somebody else needs to turn it into the one on the right. And one of the things we like to say in the hub is your job in the CRM is 2 things. Put in a note and add your next task. Let the hub admins be the closet fairies and make it and wave their magic wand to make it look disorganized. And this is how process starts to get built on too, right? We start talking about follow-up calls and all the other things that need to happen to scale and run. When does that person call next? It's all based on clean data. So there, it wasn't so bad on process, was it?
No.
Let's talk about what a tech stack looks like in action, right? So we've talked about pieces, we talked about roles and people. Now let's take I'm going to take some real life examples that we've pulled out of the hub, and we're going to walk through. I'm going to explain the example, and then we're going to dissect it, and we're going to show what tech it took, what pieces of the tech stack, what people, and what process. So here's one. I don't know if Scott Hardisty's on this call. This is actually a recent one from him, but this is an example of going from Zillow to Showcase IDX to showing homes. Okay, and Kurt, that plays right into what you talked about before of why it's important to have a sticky site to get people off of Zillow. Zillow's a great lead magnet, but you can't stop there. So February 5th, the Zillow lead comes in, gets reached by the hub ISA. Again, so ISA is industry term for inside sales agent, reaches that lead. And what did that take for just that lead to come in and the hub ISA to reach it? Well, for tech, it took Zillow as the lead generator. It took Agent Hub. Agent Hub has a CRM that's connected to a call center. So it took an ISA in terms of people. And processes, it took, well, integration between Zillow and the hub CRM in the call center. It took an ISA that had to be recruited, onboarded, trained, coached. And it took a tech app for notify the agent, boom, hey, you've got a new lead that's been engaged and is ready to talk to you. Next thing, right after that call, the lead gets added to the Showcase site and a market or a buyer search created for them. And because they're interested in selling, a homeowner report was created. So who did that? It wasn't the ISA, because they got to get on to the next call. It was the hub admin that did that. And what process needed to be involved? Well, they needed to be notified that it's time to create these reports. Okay, later that day, the agent makes contact, starts to build rapport, sets a reminder to follow up based on their conversation. Okay, that was the agent. And what was that agent doing at that point in time? One of their three roles. They were prospecting, right? You see how they're not involved up here in these first two steps. They're prospecting. And process-wise, okay, that's having a dashboard that when they jump into their CRM, boom, they know what they're doing. And that took organized data, right, to know that. February 21st, fast forward a couple of weeks, agent follows up with that lead, right? Actually sends them the link. Showcase and Agent Hub are integrated, so they have that Showcase link to that search right in their CRM. They send that to the agent, have a call, and guess what? The next day, February 22nd, that lead is now engaging. They're on the Showcase site. They're asking questions. Hey, can I see this home? Right? Or does this home have a basement? I don't know what the questions actually were, but they're engaging. Now they're not on Zillow. They're on Showcase, which means that agent, as Kurt said, is less likely to lose that lead to somebody else.
Well, what I love here from seeing it too is like this started on February 5th. If any step in this process gets broken down, even the 3 steps that take place on the 5th, because the hub's helping make sure it happens. If any of these steps are missed, so if the agent's trying to do it themselves, the chance of getting a completed transaction, like even just at this point, just showing homes, the chance of getting a completed transaction is so much lower. And so this is where it does take people in a process that works every time for every lead.
Exactly. Yep. Great comment, Kurt. And that's true. One of these breaks down, and now we got leakage, right? And that hurts your scalability and your growth. Okay, here's another example. I'm not going to go through the detail of the dissection, but real quickly, here's an example from an open house brush off to a listing and purchase. So June 22nd, agent meets a lead at an open house. Told by the lead they're not interested. And what does a no today typically mean? Is a no today a no forever? Well, let's see. So regardless, that agent adds the lead to the hub. And on the 23rd, and I think 2 days later, the hub ISA reaches that lead, gets a hold of them finally, and discovers there is an interest in listing and buying. Live transfers to the agent. Why do you think maybe the agent got blown off? Maybe it was on a Sunday and they were in a rush and they just didn't want to talk at that point, right? They maybe had a lot of other things going on. They just wanted to pop by. But the ISA was able to uncover that, yeah, no, they are interested in buying and selling, and was able to connect them to the agent. July 18th, agent goes and does a home valuation and listing presentation and signs both a listing and a buyer agreement. Let me back up. That agent was doing what of their role there? They were presenting, right? They were presenting. Prospect, present, negotiate. They write an offer on July 18th. And August 1st, they write an offer to purchase. And on August 15th, they close on the listing. $19,650 in GCI. That started with a brush off, right? So as Kurt pointed out before, when these pieces start to fall off, you don't get to the end result. And that's the challenge with real estate. It's a long sales cycle, typically, right? These are some quick wins within a month, but still it's long. But some sales cycles go for a year or two. You got to nurture. So that's why it's always difficult in this industry, is because the nature of the life cycle of a transaction can be quite long, and all these important pieces get dropped. So again, we won't go through the breakdown here, just in the essence of time. But here's one more example, from abandoned client, past client to a listing and purchase. How many of you have had this experience where you've sold a home and it was a pleasant transaction on both sides, and 10 years go by and you haven't been in touch, right? And this day and age, we have to be so aware that everybody starts their search with the path of least resistance, which is right here in my hand. It's actually easier for me to say, hey, Google, 3-bed, 2-bath in Scottsdale, Arizona in Troon. It's easier for me to do this than go, oh, who was the agent that I used in Scottsdale that I can't remember anymore? Or for me to phone Kurt and say, hey, Kurt, who would I use in Scottsdale? It's actually quicker for us. And we are lazy species, right? We follow the path of least resistance, like every animal on this planet. And now this has become the path of least resistance. So it's so important. It's more important than ever that we are engaging and keeping in contact with our past clients. So this example, real quick, August 18th, a lead from 10 years ago gets reached by the hub, ISA. Turns out they're actually considering listing and buying a new home. On the 19th, the agent gets a hold of that past clients, reconnects. 23rd, about a week later, they sign a listing agreement and they start writing offers on a new home, and $30,000 in GCI. That client could have easily went on Zillow.
Well, and in most cases, I want to hop in here, most cases they would. So having spoken to tens of thousands of agents and get inside their business, looking at their calendars, the honest agents will tell me where they're actually spending their time. Those that don't have growing businesses, is that they're chasing new leads. And so like that's why I actually look at where they're spending time. And what they don't realize is their business isn't growing because they had this bank of people that they could have been doing transactions for, but because they didn't have the technology or process in place, and often the others, you point out the people helping run those two, they lost this 30,000 in GCI. And so it's really easy when you're part of Lab Coat Agents or Real Closers on Facebook to jump in all these conversations about generating new leads, when new leads should be coming from the relationships you already have. But we get so focused on what we think are, hey, it's who signed up on my site today. Well, you could have had 5 conversations of people that already know you, that want to work with you, but you didn't stay in touch with them. Mm-hmm. And so like this right here, this is the biggest piece I see from technology and process, where agents aren't growing. I mean, we all love new leads, but man, this is where technology surfaces the 8, 9, 10-year-old relationships and makes it easy to have a process. You just actually have to love that piece or have somebody that runs those pieces for you.
And one of the things Kelly on our team likes to say is that the new lead is it's like being in Vegas and playing that slot machine, and that ding, 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 right? There's that instant gratification that goes off when you get a new lead, right? And that's addicting because it's no different than a drug. The chemical that gets released in our brain when we see a new lead, it's a chemical, it's a drug, right? So it's addictive. And that's why it's led the industry down such a path that's totally abandoned their past clients. And what do we all say in marketing? Right? You've paid a price to get that client. You've worked so hard to get that home sale and that relationship, and then they're just forgotten about because the next shiny thing comes along. Yeah, great point, Kurt. Thank you. Okay, so again, we won't go through that. This will be in the supplement, but I'm not going to spend any time on it. This is what we consider at the hub is the best of breed, for each of these pieces of the tech stack. And of course, we have Showcase in here, exactly as Kurt mentioned, because you need the most sticky site that you can find to keep your clients there. And as an agent, you got to promote that, right? You really have to be aware that I need people off of Zillow after I've got them from there, if that's your source, and get them on my site. Okay, so real quickly, these I think are the most important things that you would want to take away from today. when you're thinking about a tech stack. Number one is consider all-in-one versus best of breed, right? All-in-one may not always be the tool that you want for something such as your showcase or your website. So I like to look Swiss Army knife versus a tool belt. The missing link, right? People and process. Technology does not run itself. As much as all the marketing departments from the tech companies like to make us think that they will, they won't. And it's a universal problem across any business that buys a piece of technology. And then number three, keep your closet clean. Because even if you have the people and the process in place and you have the right tech stack, if your CRM looks like that closet that was messy, then there's no scaling that could happen on top of that. Okay, so Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, perfect.
And
thanks, Greg. Ton of information. I know we could dig in for hours on this, and we regularly do. But where to begin? And one of the big questions is, what are some of the steps? And Kurt, I really thought that this might be something for you. So do it yourself or outsource. You know, given that you've been involved in a lot of different industries, how would you approach this? How would you answer it? Do it yourself or outsource this?
In most cases, I'm going to outsource it. It may depend on where I'm at in my business. If I'm very early, I might have to budget-wise figure out piecing together some of it. But anything, if this is where I'm stepping into, it's going to be outsourcing for me. I'm one of the people that loves process. I love doing the figurative digging the ditches, the things that's unsexy that nobody else wants to do, because I know that that's where success comes from. So I'm happy to be up at 2:00 in the morning helping to clean out some of my CRM stuff. But like to the point, and especially showing the closet, like I could be folding clothes, but I'd much rather be calling clients. And so that's part of the process I'd rather work in. And so, I mean, I can do technology myself, but even there, it's like a lot of agents can't. So talking to agents, there's a place for saying, if you want a website with Showcase, hey, if you can't build it, you can pay somebody to build it. You can partner with you guys, and somebody else. Or I've seen a lot of people have their 14-year-old daughter build it for them. That's outsourcing still. You're not doing it as the agent yourself, but you just can't do that for all of the pieces it takes to be successful. And it's not just setting up the things, it's making sure they're tightly integrated up front. And so that's a key bit for me, where there's some agents that can do it themselves, but most agents that I talk to, I'm like, if you want to find success, you need to get out of your own way and find somebody that can easily integrate this for yourself, and then actually just run parts of the process for you. So you can I like how you all simplify it. Agents should be prospecting, presenting, and negotiating. That's the piece that others can't do for you. So ship the rest of it out to somebody else.
Yeah, definitely ship it out. But if we could just stick on this for a second, I know we want to head to Q&A and wrap up, but when you were just talking about earlier process, it needs to be every time for every lead. Yeah. That's where I see the breakdown point is. And you just said up front, it needs to be tightly integrated. So what do you mean by tightly integrated, and what's the breakdown that you see happening for agents? So you or Greg could answer that, but
there's a tightly integration from technology for me, but there's with the people, especially if you've outsourced people for some of the process in there. So it's when somebody signs up on your website, is there an integration that sends your lead to Line Desk, the hub, KV Core, if you're an HP agent that's not using any of us today, like that has to happen automatically. But also you have to, in anywhere, and there's a lot of those technology pieces, so that it's not just the integration of the technology. It's then what I like from the examples you guys have of, hey, if you have an ISA that picks up that lead and calls them, well, they have to be notified to know from an integration perspective that they have an action, and an action that probably has a 45-second to 5-minute kind of follow-up for them. Mm-hmm. Well, that's an integration piece as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The integration is a huge part of what we talk about, but certainly what we're talking about here in terms of plugging all those pieces together. Greg, anything you want to throw in there?
Yeah, I definitely aligned with what Kurt says, and anything you can do to shield yourself and focus on prospecting, presenting, and negotiating. You got to look to outsource depending on where you're at in your business, right? As Kurt said, if you're just starting out, well maybe budget wise, you got to do it a little bit yourself until you get there. It's kind of no different than a rock band, right? In the very early on, I'm sure the Rolling Stones were doing sound checks and lighting checks. But again, if their vision's on scaling at some point, they had to break away from that to focus on what makes them so great. That and in terms of the process, like Kurt said, like that integration, okay, just because two technologies talk to each other, for example, in our world, when that lead comes in, well, yeah, it shows up right away on an ISA screen. And then again, it shows up in 2 hours, and again, another 2 hours in the first day, and then once a day for the next 7 days, and then once a month after that. So like all those processes have to be defined. Past clients, right? We're not going to call a past client like we do a new lead, right? They're going to get called every 6 months to check in and leave a voicemail and say hello. And so all of those things process-wise needs to be considered. And I think one of the challenges is, again, the way technology is built is not holistic, right? And your tech stack needs to be holistic. And when I say holistic, I mean you've got to have process to service your past clients, your sphere, your pipeline. And that's our language for somebody's expressed an interest to buy or sell and has a time frame, meaning they've spoken to either you, the agent, or one of the ISAs. That's a pipeline that needs process, right? So everything's got to be together in your CRM with these integration points to then service and provide customer service to all those different types of sources.
Well, and I like that. I mean, one of the reasons I'm so excited about, working with Agent Hub 360 is, not every CRM is the same for sure, but it is the integration of the technology with the people in there as well. So, hey, there's a bunch of, real estate specific CRMs out there, completely different than when I see the back end of the hub to be able to see, hey, where am I at in relationships with my past clients versus new clients and potential clients, and knowing that there's other people in there. I mean, there's a lot of vendors that will just integrate the technology, take the check, and then walk away, expecting the agent to kind of run with everything else. Mm-hmm. For me, that part of outsourcing and why I'm so excited to be working with you all is, like, most agents I find that are successful, they realize, hey, like, it's not just thinking about upfront, like, hey, can I have a little extra coffee and grunt this out for the next week or two to do some of this myself? It's acknowledging, what does the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months look like for my business, especially if it's growing? Am I still going to be able to keep up with trying to piece together a cheaper solution that just has technology? Well, no, because it's going to cost your business so much money from a growth perspective. You're going to leave so much GCI on the table if there's not an integration of process, of which the Hub CRM has, but also the people that are going to pick up the pieces that the agent frankly shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, the pieces that an agent frankly shouldn't be doing. I think that could be also a title of a similar webinar, because that's probably one of the most instructive things for agents to learn. Terrific. Well, we're going to get into the Q&A here in just a minute. Why don't we move forward? And if you want to find out more about how to get to find out more about Agent Hub 360, just go to our website right there. And Dwayne, if you'd put it in the chat, thanks, agenthub360.com. It's pretty simple. And book a consult. I'd be happy to do a diagnostic of your business and find out more about how your business is operating and see if we're a fit. And then, Kurt, how should they contact you, Go?
Yeah, they can just go to showcaseidx.com. If you're capable of building your own website, there's a start a trial right there. If on the other hand, you need some help from there, I know, Ben, you all can help put them in touch with some partners as well. But there's a section underneath partners up there where there's a directory of people that all they do is build websites. They're people that are certified, that we have nothing but 5-star reviews, for some cases, thousands of agent websites that they've helped build. And some of those are just, are agents that are getting started. Others, because they moved to Showcase, they're generating 50,000 organic visitors from Google on a monthly basis. And I hope that everybody right there has a process that they type into an Agent Hub 360 so that they're actually following up. Sean asked the question, does it have to be WordPress? with Showcase IDX, it does, and there's a bunch of reasons for that Paula and Reba on our team can tell you. So I would just, if I was an agent not here, there's no way I would build a website on Wix or Squarespace because you have to have a home search that your clients will use.
Well, that's great. We're organically moving into the Q&A, and why don't we spend the next few minutes just hitting on, some basic questions. Everyone, feel free to dump whatever question you have about tech stack, about integration, about the pieces to use, not use, anything specific you'd like to put in. This is completely open, and you have obviously a couple of phenomenal expert minds here, leaders in the industry. So avail yourself of that. I think just something that's been on my mind, Greg, was I'm afraid this may just open up Pandora's box, but you talk about data, and I was wondering if there's anything else you want to say. It's maybe too broad a question about data and business. Kurt, you're right in there because of what's happening in the industry and agents' closets. I don't know any agents whose closet look like the one on the right, all put together, and we've talked to thousands of them, as you have, Kurt. So what else would you like to say or reemphasize about data management inside of an agent's business?
Well, I have one comment, or I wouldn't say comment, but observation is this. I mean, we've worked with thousands of agents, right, over the years. And I'm sure Kurt will agree. Agents that have a closet that look like the one on the right typically don't have any business, right? If they're doing it themselves, right, and they're focused on keeping their CRM squeaky clean and everything, right, they typically are maybe just starting out and haven't built up the volume, right? But the most productive agents, and a lot of agents come to us that have production, right? They're now focused on taking their business to the next level. Their database is a mess. Why? Because they've kept focused on the three things: prospecting, presenting, negotiating. And that's why their database is a mess. But they realize, okay, I can't break through to the next growth phase, or I'm just buried. And I need it. And now they know that, okay, I have to have a CRM that's organized, and I can't be the one to do it. I just got to huck the clothes in and make sure that they're being properly stored.
Yeah, definitely. Kurt, is there anything you want to jump in around data? Because I don't think any agent really thinks about data in their business. But
yeah, I mean, let me throw in in terms of the data, I love the concept I heard that all an agent needs to do is add in a lead and add a note, and the rest kind of takes care of itself. That's so important. I mean, outside of real estate, outside of growing Showcase, I hire a lot of people. And so both at Showcase, but in the past, I have a database that I keep clean myself of people that I have worked with, both in companies that I've invested in, companies I've worked at, and companies I've been on board for, that I trust their opinions explicitly. I keep that list so that when I'm hiring, I can use an email assistant I have to send out to about 475 people. I'm hiring for this role, and here, do you know anyone? I'm amazed when I talk to business owners where they're like, I'm trying to hire somebody, but it's like I have to post on LinkedIn and everything. That's great, but it's like I get referrals from my network. Why? Because I have a clean database. So when I talk to people, even on my own team, sometimes it says, it's a great investment of your time to take 3 hours to cleanse that list of past coworkers to come up with a list you can email for new hires. Nobody does it. And that's a thing where it's like software engineers are hard to get today. Software engineers that lead teams, they're waiting months to get positions filled as opposed to being able to corral that. Just nobody takes that effort. And clean data, I mean, everything comes off of that. It removes blocks. And frankly, it makes me want to send out emails. I mean, your comment about if I stepped in to do something and my lead list was, going to take me 3 hours to clean up, I'm probably going to get distracted by something else. I mean, be honest, it's a distraction for me. It's not even that I may not have the time. By the time I want to send out that email, I'm off to go do something else. But when my list is clean, I'm going to sit down for 30 minutes and send out that list or set up an event.
As Greg said, the path of least resistance, right? If there's too much resistance, there's no path. So that's the big problem. So how do you create that? Kelly's got a question in there. Could you speak to SEO and showcase versus other sites? Greg, you could even flip back to that one graphic you had. Why? I think it's really a question about why
table.
you have.
Yeah,
the table. Sorry. Why you have such high SEO?
So it's in large degree, it's how we deliver our data. So Sean had a question too about like, hey, do we work with Wix? No, like Showcase doesn't work with Wix because the way we deliver the home search is embedded with WordPress in a way so that to not only Google, but consumers, it's an integrated part of the experience. And embed, while we could put a little wrapper and have something embedded in an iframe into a Wix site, the experience is not going to be good. And chances are, usually when you start those embeds, it then sends you to a subdomain, a search.kurteuler.com. So it's a completely different website experience. And what the result is home searchers will leave. Well, that also matters for Google because Google, to a large degree, they're following where consumers go as well. And so the way we deliver our technology, different than a KV Core or an iHome Finder or YLOPO, it shows in a way to the search engines in a way that looks like everything's hand-coded, like down to an individual listing basis. I mean, we'll be honest though, it's not as simple as just putting Showcase onto a site. That's a big step. But it's these area-based pages that a website developer, a partner that builds your website, can take your local knowledge with an agent, combined with the proprietary way we deliver the home search and the data, and that together would create a page such as condos in Roswell, Georgia. I live in Roswell, Georgia. So that page with your information, with how we present the listing information, has a very high chance of ranking. And we just do it in a way differently than pretty much anyone else out there. And the numbers show that.
Yeah, well, it's powerful when you look at that kind of retention. What a difference that makes, especially over time. Something else that I was wondering is that an agent may say, we were just in that conversation about do it yourself or outsource. What if an agent, because he's got some pieces, says, I really want to do it myself? Or they've already got a website with Showcase on it and stuff, and they're like, okay, so I've got some of these, I want to do it myself. What would either of you say are the big issues there? How would you respond to that agent?
Well, I'll just take it from the place where somebody already has a Showcase website. If their business isn't growing, I like the way that you all refer to this as a business growth system that Agent Hub 360 provides. If you're not, if you have a site and your business isn't growing, the first thing for me is to look at, do you have all of the other parts of the tech stack in place, and or do you also have the process covered? And if not, I would encourage anyone that has a Showcase site that can't say yes, affirmative to all of those things, that they should talk to Ben, you all, to get at least an audit of where things are going. The end result may figure out that they're at a place in their business that maybe they can get by doing a little bit more of that themselves. But in my experience from seeing not just Showcase sites, if people don't have the process and the people behind it, they need to talk to somebody like you to find out, hey, why does a third party think my business isn't growing?
Exactly. Actually, most agents, interestingly, already know the answer to that question pretty fast because they already have that internal sense of like, I'm not doing it right somehow.
But I think they don't think about it the way that, Greg, you gave the example about when you were in the Fortune 500, thinking about, you presented to the board that said if you try to do this on the cheap, you're going to lose so much net revenue on the other side. It's one thing to know as an agent that says, hey, I'm not growing my business as well as I could because I don't have somebody in an ISA role. It's another thing to have an audit that says, hey, based on having worked with thousands of agents, we would guess, or we would look at it that says your business isn't growing. You might be leaving this much GCI on the table based on an audience and past clients that you already have. And I think when agents think they go, wow, I could have 6 figures of GCI next year that I don't have, that I didn't get this last year, if I had some of these boxes checked. then it goes from feeling like, wow, instead of feeling like it's just a paper cut that I know it's this problem in my business, it's a festering wound that I need to solve because, like, I'm sorry, I do like earning money. I mean, I think most of us do, whether you like a better lifestyle or you want to donate a lot of your money like my wife and I do. And so if I went to my wife and said, hey, if I fix this part of my business, we could write another 6-figure check to a mission next year. She would have me figure out to fix that part of the business.
Mm-hmm. Well, it comes to actually having to invest in your business so that it grows. And what the long-term goal is it just to do it cheap now, or is it to actually have something much bigger later? And I think that's what real estate has come to. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, yeah. And just to add to that, what Kurt said is, I always like to look at how did we get here? and what I mean by how we got here, I'm talking at an industry level. How did the industry get to this point where the agent is so distracted and pulled in many different directions, right? And I believe that how we got there was, again, as technology is sexy and it's shiny and it's marketed as if you can do it, number one. Number two is the competition for the agent's attention, whether that's from lenders or title companies or brokerages, right? There's so much training coming at them. This is another training, right? But we're trying to take a macro approach and boil it down. But there's just so much, this new tactic or this script or there's just so much, right? And one of the analogies I always like to look at, and if you're a new agent and you just graduated with your real estate license, I live in Calgary, Alberta, in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, and we have what we call gophers. And maybe you have them in Minnesota and other in Texas too, but gophers hibernate in the winter, and it's just spring here now in the Rockies, and they're going to come out soon. And when they come out of that hole, okay, the wolves know, the grizzlies know, the eagles know, everyone's around that hole waiting for those poor gophers to come out. And that's how I feel for agents, right? And especially new agents, because they don't know what they don't know, right? And when they poke their head out of that hole, meaning they just got their license, boom, everybody's marketing to them, trying to sell them something. And it's difficult. And I think that's what's really led to how we as an industry have got to where we're at, where it's weapons of mass distraction. And there are so many different paths to follow, but what we're talking about today is these are the fundamentals that you need to have in place. This is the foundation of your house in order to build a really gratifying real estate business that you could sell one day, or you could, is it Laura that lives at the lake all summer and had her best year ever, right? Because she's investing in the foundation to build from.
I agree with that, Greg. I mean, and definitely in the distraction from for agents, I think some of this also how we got here as an industry, it's the distraction and the feel of technology and the change for consumers and home buyers today as well. So, I mean, I think 30 years ago, if I wanted to buy a home, my agent pulled out, I showed up and they brought out a print catalog. And it's like, let's look through the homes that are available right now. And then they migrated to just, the agents had it available. Well, when a buyer right now, they think that they can do it themselves, even though they had an agent that they had a great experience with 8 or 10 years ago, they by default go, well, I can just start my search online. And so my wife kind of comments that I can't ask people these questions when we're at a barbecue or an outdoor event, because I started asking people, do you know what happens when you fill out a form on Zillow and how they sell your information and what does that look like? And a lot of people don't realize, while they're letting so much of their private financial information out there then, but also they don't realize that, like, hey, when the agent from a Zillow Premier account, which can be a great lead, when they call me, well, I have no experience with them. So that could be a good agent. It could be a bad agent. When in the fact, I have a local agent that I loved 8 years ago at my home. And the only reason I didn't call them for my home search was because they didn't stay top of mind. And I would have a better transaction today as a buyer if I did contact the person that helped me 8 years ago. But as a buyer, I've been kind of convinced that says, well, you can just do this yourself. Go work with a discount agent. And so consumers end up making a bad decision I don't even think they intentionally do it. I think it's they just kind of, they get down a path and then they go, well, this is the agent that's calling me, so that's who I'm going to work with. I would never choose a financial planner that way, that says like, hey, I filled out some form that said I'm going to move a $500,000 401k in the next 60 days and then just work with whoever called me. But that's the decision that people are making, the equivalent of it when they're going to buy a home. And so, but buyers are convinced that like, well, that's just how you buy a home today, is you go to Zillow. And in the end, like, by all means, I would love agents to grow their business. But in the end, I mean, my heart is for the home buyers that are making poor decisions because they're working with a random agent that contacted them versus somebody that they have a great experience with before, that just doesn't have the process or technology figured out to have kept the relationship warm.
Yeah.
Yep. Keeping that relationship warm. That is the name of this business, and it's become increasingly more difficult to do. We could go on for a long time. I know, especially if we were to crank up the two of you guys, you have a lot to say. Why don't we go to the last slide, Greg? And then, and I think we should wrap this up. A couple of things. If there's any closing comments, Greg or Kurt, you'd like to make, anything else you'd want to put in as we wrap up?
Well, I hope everyone got a clearer path on what it looks like to have that foundation, that tech stack, and what it takes to run it. I mean, that was our goal today, is that you walked away with, a much simpler version of what maybe you came here thinking what a tech stack looked like, and just that tsunami coming at you. So I hope we added clarity to that and give you some things to consider as you embark on growing your business and scaling it.
And the only add-on I would have is appreciate all the questions live that everyone was here, but we all three of us will be checking the comments on the video once we get this posted live. So if you're watching this on replay or you're watching it live, send this to somebody that will benefit from it. Leave a question in the comments and we will follow up with you as well. Because I know there's a lot of information here. We also want the replay to come out because it was dense in some parts, and that may help you figure out where you have pain points in your business. And so if you have questions, leave a comment below in the video, and one of us will follow up with you.
Perfect. Well, that was going to be my closing comment. I love that you wrapped it that way. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kurt and Greg, first of all. Love what you've been sharing. And thank you all for being here, especially you that will be watching on video. Please don't be shy and do put notes in the comments. And that's our wrap for how to create a real estate tech stack to scale. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now. And thank you, Wayne. Appreciate your being here.